If you believe that a woman should be able to kill a man to stop him from raping her, then you should also agree that a woman should have the right to get an abortion. The logic behind this is that if it would be morally permissible for a woman to take lethal force against a man to stop him from being in her body without her consent, then a woman should also have the right to abort the fetus, since it too is within the woman's body without her consent. Now, at first glance, this analogy seems rhetorically strong, but after some reflection, it's evident that it fails to hold up under scrutiny. For one, the comparison ignores an important feature present in most pregnancies, namely that the dependent state of the fetus arises because of a voluntary and foreseeable action taken by the parents. In other words, the fetus doesn't just appear as an external aggressor imposing itself on the woman's body the way a rapist does. Rather, the parents engaged in the very act ordered towards bringing about the existence of the fetus. To see why this matters, imagine a hypothetical where a woman voluntarily and with foreseeability engages in an action that causes a man to come into a room and sexually violate her while sleepwalking. And while this bodily violation would still constitute the kind of intrusion that one may repel with force, it would nevertheless complicate the situation in a way that a completely unprovoked assault would not. And why is this? It's because the woman played a causal role in bringing about the very condition she is now resisting. That said, this hypothetical fundamentally differs from pregnancy because rape remains an intrinsically unjust bodily invasion, whereas pregnancy is a natural biological process that results from the very acts that put the fetus into existence. So the analogy fails once again because it treats pregnancy as though it's the same kind of event as sexual assault, when in reality, they differ both in their nature and causal structure. Now, some might object and say that if it's the case that a woman doesn't want to be pregnant, then that's what makes the pregnancy evil or unjust. But that wouldn't follow because one's psychology isn't the type of thing that changes the nature of an action or an event. For instance, if a woman was a masochist, meaning that she loved pain, it wouldn't mean that the actions the woman engages in aren't painful. Rather, it would mean that she has a particular psychological response towards the painful events. Likewise, just because a woman doesn't want to be pregnant doesn't by itself transform pregnancy into an intrinsically unjust act comparable to rape. And finally, even in cases where lethal force is justified in self-defense, the moral object is not the killing itself, but the stopping of an unjust attack. Meaning the death of the aggressor is tolerated as a consequence of defending oneself rather than desired for its own sake.